Honourable member for Malpeque.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I too know that the remarks from the member from Bakerville were heartfelt on its impact in the farming community. We may disagree on the Canadian Wheat Board, and I would say this, that his government really killed the only entity that had the authority and the power to challenge the railways and the grain companies, and that was the Canadian Wheat Board. But we'll set that aside. There's been a number, and I really want to ask the member if he would consider some of these solutions, and I'd like to outline about 5, Mr. Speaker. The member from Wascana named a few earlier, but one was certainly doing what can be done immediately while there's still permafrost in the ground to get grain movement to the port at Churchill so it can go from there. Secondly, the member for Wascana mentioned making the definition of service explicit in that Fair Rail Service Act and make penalties under the law applied against railways that would compensate liquidated damages and pay them to the farmers rather than a fine paid to the government. I'd also suggest, Mr. Speaker, that they re-establish the BC Clearance Association, which the government killed in August of 2012. That association was responsible for coordinated ships coming into port 6 weeks in advance of the delivery of grain to port. That needs to be considered. They need to also learn from the logistics operation of the Canadian Wheat Board before it was the logistics in terms of collecting the grain inland in a coordinated way and targeted into the holds of ships in Vancouver. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, would they consider a grain transportation authority with some power to take charge and order, if necessary, certain things to happen with the grain companies and railways? Those are some proposals.